Hello and welcome to another segment of Western Wisconsin Journal. I'm the political and government correspondent, but this time we are going to be interviewing a guest from the charity/nonprofit world. My guest today is Searles. Ann, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Well, normally my guests are government officials or political candidates, government worker wannabes. You are not in the government sector, and maybe that's a good thing. So let's start the interview before we get into what the topic is, St. Croix Valley Food Bank. Mm-hmm. Let's give folks a little bit of background. What's your title?
My title is Executive Director
of
St. Croix Valley Food Bank.
Okay, and the St. Croix Valley Food Bank, we're going to learn more about that, but how did you get to this position?
Well, I've been in hunger relief for over 10 years in an executive director role. I have been able to have the opportunity to build capacity of a food pantry over in Minnesota, as well as served as the executive director for the United Way St. Croix Valley right here in Hudson, where I had the opportunity to grow the impact of the program, the food program that John Coughlin started in 2007. So here we are today. I'm still in hunger relief. We launched the St. Croix Valley Food Bank in 2021. And so I'm just delighted to be here to talk about the impact from our first year of operations. Prior to nonprofit work, I worked for Thomson Reuters. It was for-profit operations management, and I took some time off to be home with my 3 girls, and I'm just fortunate to be able to re-enter the workforce over 10 years ago in this hunger relief work, and I wouldn't change anything.
We mentioned your 3 girls. Well, what are their ages now?
So I have a 23-year-old who just graduated from Texas Christian University. She is an actuary living in Denver. I have a 21-year-old who is scheduled to graduate from the University of Oklahoma. She's a broadcast journalist major, and
maybe she can take my job.
Well, maybe. She kind of gave me some tips. We'll see how I do. And then I have a freshman at the University of Colorado Boulder who is pre-med. So my girls keep me busy, and here
Great.
I am today.
Okay. Well, you mentioned that you have, this operations manager background, executive director, and you mentioned a food shelf, and then your current role as a food bank. Let's start there. What's the difference between a food shelf or food cupboard and a food bank?
That's a good question, and that is a question that I get asked often, and there's so much confusion around it. So my goal today is to ensure that everyone has a clear understanding. When you think of a food bank, I like to equate it to a bank. You go to the bank, and you deposit your money, you take out money, it has all your money. Well, the food bank has all the food for the food pantries, the food cupboards, the food shelves, the backpack programs. So we're really that hub, that source for all of the hunger relief partners across western Wisconsin. We serve Pierce, Polk, St. Croix, and Burnett counties. So the hunger relief partners will order food from us, and we will deliver the food to the food shelves, food pantries, backpack programs. Keeping in mind that the food bank and the beauty of the food bank is that over 75% of the food at the St. Croix Valley Food Bank is donated. So we're able to distribute that donated food across the region.
Now, you don't mean donated in the sense that you get contributions and then you go buy it. That's what you do with 25%.
Well, it works similar to that. So let me explain. So the St. Croix Valley Food Bank is part of the Feeding America network, and we work closely with Second Harvest Heartland. So we are able to partner with Second Harvest Heartland and be able to secure donated products from large companies that have contracts at the Feeding America network. So then that food gets delivered to Hudson, and then we disperse it across western Wisconsin. In addition, there is a government piece, and we're very grateful for Governor Evers. He recently invested dollars into the food banks here in Wisconsin.
Okay.
So we were able to purchase food from Wisconsin manufacturers, from local farmers, and be able to give that food, redistribute it to the food pantries, food shelves, backpack programs for free. So over 75% of our food at the St. Croix Valley Food Bank in our first year of operations was considered donated because of multiple partnerships.
Okay, so we go back a couple decades. That is, my wife and I, in helping out, as you said, fighting hunger. We were on the board for the Hudson Food Cupboard,
Yes.
Christian food cupboard back in the late 90s. And so that's going back, like I said, 25 years or so.
Yeah.
But so maybe people are familiar with that, and they were housed out of St. Pat's Church. Now, my understanding was that the biggest source of where they got their bigger donations, they got the small donations, people dropping stuff off, but they would do purchases of food for like 19 cents a pound from Second Harvest.
Yes, so we are the direct resource from Second Harvest. So that buying power is still available to all of the food pantries. What happened was in 2019, Second Harvest Heartland approached the United Way St. Croix Valley and said, hey, we've always wanted a food bank here because it is difficult to meet the need of those who are struggling in the rural communities.
Right.
Will you consider this? We really would like a food bank, because what was happening when John Coughlin started the food hub here in western Wisconsin in partnership with Trinity Church, just right off the Badlands. There's a warehouse. And he was distributing 56,000 pounds of food to about 10 to 14 pantries across the region. What we learned was that the need was greater. When I started as the executive director, when John passed away unexpectedly, he really truly left a gift. And I feel very honored to be able to have taken that program when I started, and we grew it to over 850,000 pounds.
Okay, so this is while you were directing the United Way of the St. Croix Valley.
Correct.
Which has many programs under its
You're 100%
umbrella.
right.
Hunger is only one small part.
Hunger was only one small part at the time. There's a wonderful Success by Six program, and of course the United Way campaign, and 211, a great resource for the community.
But the only way to do something well and do it in a higher volume is to have that kind of focus.
You're 100% right.
Rather than having diverted attention through across many areas.
Exactly. So we went through a strategic planning process, and the board of directors, we brought stakeholders to the table, pantries to the table, to see if that made sense, and it did. And that's how the St. Croix Valley Food Bank is today, an independent nonprofit.
And so it started, it says here 2021?
Our operations started in 2021 of July, correct.
Okay. So here we are, late December 2022. So roughly a year and a half. But tell us about some of the successes and challenges of the first year of the food bank.
It's been wonderful. The big success is we knew we needed to increase access to food across the region. And we ended up the year with 55 hunger relief distribution sites across western Wisconsin. There were about
5,500?
55.
Okay, 55.
Did I say 5,500?
Okay, I thought-
Maybe
no.
next year.
All right.
No, this year, 55.
55 distribution sites within this 4-county area you're talking about.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And so we grew the partnerships because, again, we're the food bank.
Right.
We are the ones that are delivering to our hunger relief partners to distribute food. That is a big part of what we do. We also partner with other organizations to make sure we're meeting those who are living in rural areas who do not have access to a food pantry, who cannot go through a drive-through. We partner with St. Croix County right now with a program called Goodness in a Box, and it's a box of food that is delivered to homebound elderly people who are living in poverty and cannot get out. So we have a mobile program also that reaches those sites that don't have a brick and mortar. With the two main programs of providing food to the pantries, the food shelves, the backpack programs, coupled with that mobile program that we've launched to meet those rural areas where there's high poverty, underserved, they have not had access to food. We have 55 distribution sites. We started 2.9 million pounds of food was being distributed by Second Harvest Heartland.
As of July of 2021.
Right. And we took over the region, and they partnered with us. They helped us set up the food bank. They've been extremely supportive because their commitment is to end hunger. We have that shared vision, but they didn't have those local resources to truly meet the need across the region because rural hunger is a unique challenge.
Well, if you think of 55 sites trying to get something from Second Harvest, and what you're describing to me is almost like a reverse funnel, if you will. You get your donations and the bulk food and so forth from Second Harvest.
Correct.
And then you've got it at your facility, and then that reverse funnel goes to these 55 sites plus this box program you were talking about.
Yes. Jamie, I think maybe you've cleared it up for everyone of what a food bank is. You're 100% right. So I'm happy to share with the community that we distributed across the region with our hunger relief partners and sites 4.2 million pounds of food.
Now, from wind to wind, is that?
That is from our fiscal. So when we take a look at our fiscal, we launched in mid-July. Our fiscal started October 1st, so that was from October 1st through September 30th.
All right, so you're basically 3 months into the next fiscal.
Yep.
And what are those projections compared to that last year?
Well, so we're striving for 6 million pounds of food. So what data has shown that there's just under 10,000 families living in poverty in western Wisconsin that need access to food.
And when you say poverty,
yes,
just define it, because there's different organizations that qualify folks for benefits, and that federal poverty level has been kind of a joke because no one could even subsist on that. But,
right.
So what kind of levels are we talking?
Hey, so we are talking the level that no one could exist. So this is from study with the University of Wisconsin, Madison Food Security Project, that has reported the data, those living in poverty. We're not even talking about the ALICE, and those who know ALICE through the United Way, and of course I know that well, being a past executive director, that's the asset limited, income constrained employed. And that's what we're seeing, more and more people, they can't keep up with the rising costs of food. And
they have other fixed costs in their family.
Exactly.
Transportation needs, housing, and so forth.
Yes.
And we've seen over this last year tremendous inflation in food costs.
That has been the biggest reason why people are coming through. We also are seeing an increase in our elderly population. And these are people who've worked all their life, they have a pension, they have Social Security, they simply cannot
Fixed
make
incomes.
ends meet. You're 100% right. Fixed incomes, they're struggling and they're coming to the different hunger relief sites.
Now, these hunger relief sites, to be part of the partnership with the food bank, what are their requirements, if you will?
Yep, so there's many requirements. They sign an agency agreement, and again, we utilize an agency agreement that is part of the Feeding America Second Harvest Heartland Network. They have requirements for reporting pounds of food being distributed, individuals served. The individuals being served, are they the elderly? Are they the adults? Are they the children?
So basic demographics.
Correct.
And basic measurements of output.
Exactly, including food safety. Food safety is a top priority to ensure that we're providing quality food to those in need.
Now, what about qualification? Because there's going to be people watching this who may say, that could be me. Because we are on fixed income and we're making decisions between paying car insurance or buying groceries.
Yeah.
So do these individual sites, do they get deep into qualifications? Do people have to bring their tax returns in order to prove they're eligible to get food?
That's a good question. No, they do not have to bring their tax returns. It's self-declaration.
Okay.
And there are some pantries that choose not to ask that level of detail, and there's some that do and are required through if they are a TFAP program, which is the Emergency Food Assistance Program with the government.
And that's again, so it's back to this whole partnership between government and nonprofits and charity. Government tends to have a little more red tape associated with it, and so qualifications, so to speak. But in order to be a member with the food bank, an association with the food bank, that type of bureaucracy is not required.
Correct.
Okay, good. We clarified that. So we've got about 5 minutes left or so. What other areas do you want to touch upon so that people understand, again, the challenges and successes that you've had over this last year and a half?
Yeah, the successes have been amazing. When you see people struggling, it just really empowers our team, our volunteers, the community, and the response has been just amazing here in Western Wisconsin. It's just a wonderful place to live. And I really think that that success of our huge growth has been because of that local support for the local food bank. The challenge, the demand is greater than projected.
Okay.
And the data when the study...
Need is exceeding supply.
It is. We right now have 2 trucks. We have a 3rd truck on order. We have a lease space. We have a cooler space. We had to contract and bring in an external freezer space to keep up with the demand. So as I shared in the beginning, this region demands 6 to 7 million pounds of food. Keep in mind, Second Harvest was moving 2.9.
Right, that's more than double now.
4.2. But we still have lots of work to do. And so our capacity is it's challenged right now to keep up with the volume and inefficient, and we're working very hard on strategizing our next step so that we can continue to meet the need. We do have a 3rd truck on order that'll allow us to move even more food across the region. But
now I want to talk about these trucks because I happen to know 1 or 2 of your drivers.
Oh, yeah.
And so understanding you're trying to keep costs down, you have some volunteers who volunteer to drive these trucks.
Yes.
And and you mentioned the challenge of the need exceeding the supply. So how can people help? There's sometimes an offer of time, being there to unload trucks or whatever. Is that a need, or is it more the type that I'm able to do, which is more, writing a check, helping out with donations? How can people help?
Both. Both ways.
Okay.
Time, talent, and treasure really, truly has a big impact. Our drivers, we do have volunteer drivers, and they're all DOT certified and go through the process, but it costs to have them DOT certified.
Right.
So those are the costs that you don't always understand as a nonprofit. I mean, we're running a warehouse.
Right.
We're currently leased in a space. We're looking for a permanent home right now so that we can be able to meet the need. So, but we wouldn't be able to do it without the volunteers and
Right.
the expertise. We have an incredible board of directors that bring a various levels of expertise that has been so
And
important.
I know since COVID, board of directors for nonprofits have been challenged to fill their positions. Do you have a full board?
I do, and I'm so lucky. That is one thing. When we started conversations with Second Harvest Heartland, they said, wow, you have an amazing board. And everyone says that. We've met with different representatives, and everyone is impressed by our board of directors. They're talented, committed community members here in Western Wisconsin. And I always have
So-
a full slate.
Well, that's great. I am curious. Sounds like you do have a lot of volunteer help and everything. And, you know, at this time of year, when people are making those year-end contributions, they look at efficiencies. Some folks who solicit, the solicitors, the calls that you get, I almost said crank calls, but the cold calls that you get at home wanting to contribute for this or that organization, you ask them a question, well, how much of my donation is actually going to help people? And you'd be shocked to hear some of those organizations. It's 88% administration, only 12% is actually going.
We're flipped.
Okay.
So we're 17% operations administration, and then the rest goes directly to the programs, getting food out to those
Great.
who need it. So we're a thin operation, and we're fortunate. We have the former assistant food warehouse director who is running our warehouse right now from Second Harvest Heartland.
Okay.
And I told him, I said, we have some great volunteers who are picking orders, wrapping them, loading them on trucks, and we have volunteer drivers. And he goes, oh, I've never worked with volunteers doing this kind of work. And I go, well, welcome to Western Wisconsin.
Well, that when you have the volunteers, then that's much more power to your purchasing.
It is.
With those donations.
So cost efficient, and it builds the community, and it just is just a great
So
environment.
basically, the food gets transported from Second Harvest to your food bank, and then from the food bank, it has to go to all these 55 sites that you're mentioning.
Yes, and we do leverage our local manufacturers in regards to purchasing products and from our farmers, as well as, and I've shared this before with people in the community, we're able to leverage the partnership with the food banks in Wisconsin.
Okay.
So Feed My People, which is located in Eau Claire, we will make joint purchases together, for example, beef, and bring it in and share a truck. So the truck will the load will drop off at Feed My People, half the load will go to St. Croix Valley Food Bank.
Okay.
So we're
Depending
leveraging.
on which direction it's coming from, right?
Yes, yes. So I have to say, I feel fortunate and honored to be the executive director for the St. Croix Valley Food Bank and to be right here in Hudson, because it's the best of both worlds. We get Second Harvest Heartland support, as well as being able to partner with food banks in Wisconsin. The food opportunities and offerings are much more diverse, and it's just having a bigger impact and really helping the economy too in Wisconsin. So
Well,
it's
that's
a
the thing
great
is that,
thing.
like you said, this is not the stereotypical people on food stamps or welfare or unemployed. These are in some cases, senior citizens, fixed incomes, and other, where folks who are employed, they're just not making the kind of money to be able to feed their whole family and pay the other bills.
Yes, especially during the pandemic. many people were out of work and struggled.
Right.
And to be able to access food, a basic need, and continue to feed their families had a very big impact.
Well, I want to thank you for all the work you've done. Congratulations on the success that you're having. But if people want to learn more about your organization, where could they go?
Well, they can visit our website, which is simply St. Croix Valley Food Bank .org.
.org?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so with that, I just want to say our time is up. Is there anything else that you wanted to get in before we ask you to come back for another interview later in the year?
Excellent. And I just want to say thank you.
Okay.
Thank you to the community of Hudson. Thank you to all the communities that we serve here in western Wisconsin. The support has been amazing, and we could not be doing this work without it. So thank you.
All right. Well, and Ann, thank you for your time. Ann Searles of the St. Croix Valley Food Bank, and thank you for all the work that you're doing for our communities in western Wisconsin. And I want to thank our viewers for watching another segment of Western Wisconsin Journal. Please keep watching, and please donate if you can. Thank you.